A father accused of throwing his 9-month-old daughter into water at Tweed Heads before she washed up on a Gold Coast beach has faced court on a murder charge. Residents have held an emotional memorial for the little girl, but some argued the tribute was disrespectful.
In the waters where the little girl allegedly died, hand-picked posies left by a group of locals who feel guilty they didn't do more to help.
Hello, little dimple. It was so sweet, big-eyed, to say hello. I never for 1 minute thought it would get to that, so shame on all of us, because no one did anything.
The man who was meant to protect the 9-month-old, her father, was only a few hundred metres away, alone in a cell, contemplating a murder charge.
The 48-year-old man didn't actually get into the Tweed Heads court today, but he was there through a video link from a nearby police station. Through the hearing, he sat in a hospital gown and was silent, staring at the TV monitors, as lawyers and police discussed the death of his daughter and how the child's mother and his son needed protection.
The court ordering photos like this of the family to have the identities concealed, their names not to be used. It's a move to safeguard the welfare of the mother and their 2-year-old son. A group of men claiming to be friends of the couple took it further, believing well-intentioned residents were abusing cultural sensitivities, honouring the dead child.
And that's why they were doing it, to respect this little girl. But an elder should have welcomed them to country first.
The accused also claims to have ancestral links with land rights campaigner Eddie Mabo. Officially, the father was refused bail and will wait out his next court appearance in a New South Wales jail. Darren Curtis, NBN News.
Cleaner and more reliable power. That's the promise from Bill Shorten as he pledges $15 billion to switch to renewables and overhaul the nation's transmission network. Households will also be offered help to install their own batteries.
Labor calls it a renewables revolution, a war on emissions, prices and power generation, after years of policy inaction and stalemate.
More renewables, cheaper power. These are fundamental to our vision.
The centrepiece is a $200 million plan to put power storing batteries in 100,000 homes, with a means-tested $2,000 subsidy, about a quarter of the cost.
Real savings of hundreds, potentially even thousands of dollars a year.
Labor's sticking to a 45% cut in emissions and a 50% renewables target by 2030, with $15 billion to underwrite and invest in cleaner, cheaper, reliable power and upgrade the transmission network, and a package to help workers transition from coal-fired power stations.
To drive and attract investment, to lower prices, to cut pollution, create jobs.
The government says it's a wrecking ball from factories to farm.
Which cows, which cattle, how many cattle are going to go?
To try to wedge the coalition, Labor's prepared to adopt parts of the policy dumped in the dying days of the Turnbull government.
The current Prime Minister was one of its most forceful advocates.
The Greens say Labor's policy isn't green enough, with coal and gas still part of the energy mix.
Bill Shorten showed himself to be a coward. He's backed in a policy designed to appease the climate deniers.
Bill Shorten's certain the policy takes the coalition's sharpest weapon out of play, saying there will be no carbon tax under a government he leads. Lane Calcart, NBN News.
It's a trip that will soon be very familiar to Jared Hayne, with a 30-year-old reporting to Sydney's Castle Hill Police Station today as part of his strict bail conditions. Hayne will need to do the same thing 3 days a week after being charged with the aggravated sexual assault of a 26-year-old woman in the Hunter.
The case of former Adelaide Archbishop Philip Wilson will be back in court in Newcastle next week. The 67-year-old is appealing his conviction for concealing child sexual abuse. Meanwhile, the DPP is appealing the sentence he was given. The matter was mentioned briefly in the district court today. Lawyers on both sides confirmed they're ready to proceed on Tuesday. Wilson was found guilty in May and subsequently ordered to serve 6 months home detention.
A sign today of just how cutthroat the banking industry can be, with Westpac attacking its competitor, the Commonwealth Bank, at the Royal Commission. What they were cranky over, who made the biggest mess, and why they were all being asked to clean it up.
Another day, another banker in the hot seat.
You have a significant fees for no service problem that you're having to get to grips with this year. Yes.
Significant indeed. Westpac earned $600 million in fees over more than a decade from financial planning. It now has to refund $117 million to customers who paid fees but didn't get a service. But when the regulator, APRA, wanted Westpac to do a culture review as it had forced CBA to, Brian Hartzer thought that was unfair.
My point was CBA had had a series of massive public and customer issues, and my point was simply, we haven't had that.
Westpac finally relented.
Where we haven't got things right for customers, we'll put it right.
Banking culture has been a major issue for this Royal Commission, specifically how it leads to these sorts of financial scandals, and then what it takes to fix it. Macquarie Bank's approach, brutal. Nicholas Moore is about to step down as boss, but faced questions about concerns over Macquarie's business. ASIC's report card on its financial planning arm in 2013 was damning. All that read, areas where clients would come off second best. Macquarie says it cleaned house.
The person responsible for this business specifically obviously lost their job.
ASIC's chairman has denied being too cosy, with bank CEOs saying he's expressed dissatisfaction, specifically
about the fact that I believe that they have forgotten that they are dealing with other people's money.
Eddie Meyer, NBN News.
Greg Inglis has pleaded guilty to drink driving despite being a no-show at a court in Lithgow today. The NRL star was accused of speeding and drink driving on the Great Western Highway in October, just hours after being named Kangaroos captain. His lawyer appeared in court on his behalf, apologising for the 31-year-old's absence.
Had surgery, has had surgery on his shoulder and his neck, and is recovering. He's extremely remorseful, and he takes responsibility for what he's done.
Inglis will be sentenced at a court in Sydney in January.
Now to Gavin Morris for a quick look at the weather. And Gav, it's been a day of extremes across the country.
Yes, just wow, it certainly has. First of all, beautiful rain yesterday and last night. 40 to 60 millimetres widespread across the farming lands of the northwest. Very much needed. Then there's today. The skies turning blood red. The dust storms rolling in and reaching the coastal communities around Newcastle, stealing the sunshine and wreaking havoc for asthma sufferers. It hasn't been a pretty day with the howling winds. Total fire bans in place for the Hunter. But what about the Alpine districts? It's an extraordinarily different story. The skies are white, pure white. Wild blizzards and snowstorms continue as I speak. It is going to settle down in the coming days. It's going to be dry. It's going to be a little bit cooler, but the winds remaining locked in place, particularly for the greater Hunter and over the mountain areas over the next 24 hours. All of your local details headed your way a little later.
Thank you, Gav. Coming up, never before seen interview, Michael Schumacher, in his own words, weeks before his tragic accident.
And the pregnant Duchess rolls up her sleeves to help at a community kitchen.
Yippee-fri-yay, furniture lovers! It's Amart Furniture's Black Friday sale. Get 25% off store-wide on our entire range of high-quality furniture. Plus, we're open late. I got it at Amart.
Introducing Newcastle's newest Mitsubishi and Suzuki dealership. Kelly Mitsubishi and Kelly Suzuki, now open at Pacific Highway Gateshead. Kelly's got your car.
Discover the delicious combination of a whole hazelnut, rich creamy chocolate, crisp wafer, and gently roasted hazelnut pieces. Unwrap magic this Christmas with Ferrero Rocher.
Okay, so no. Daddy needs to work.
Come on, Rose. Not now, okay?
We need to do something.
Nice hat.
huge range of quality recliners, sofas and more. Plus, a select range can be delivered to your home now. The giant stock take sale only at Horton's, Katara and Rutherford.
Intelligent mobility. We can do anything we want. Suspension tubes for tough Australian conditions. 3.5 tons of great towing capacity and huge payload. There's nothing you can't do. It's the Navara. Powerful, made clever.
I often tell my patients to think of their teeth like an iceberg. There's a lot going on that you can't see, like harmful bacteria on your gums, which is the cause of most gum problems. That's why I recommend Oral-B Gum Care and Enamel Restore. It contains a unique form of fluoride called stannous fluoride, which rejuvenates the gums while repairing weakened enamel. I'm convinced by the science. I've seen the results in my patients. So I can confidently recommend Oral-B Gum Care and Enamel Restore. Don't ignore gum problems. Talk to your dentist today.
The New South Wales Police Commissioner, Police Minister and Premier today said sorry over a parole bungle that allegedly put a 7-year-old girl in grave danger. Tonight, a senior constable is potentially facing dismissal over the mistake, which saw a convicted rapist walk the streets.